The dimensional rift opened without warning above Proxima Station, the busiest trade hub in the Galactic Coalition's inner sphere. The shimmering tear in spacetime expanded from a pinprick to a kilometer-wide vortex in seconds, its edges crackling with blue-white energy that scrambled sensors across 3 sectors. Traffic control operators, members of 7 different species working in careful harmony, froze at their stations as proximity alarms blared throughout the station's central spire. "Unscheduled breach in Sector 7, shouted Turville, the Linthari flight coordinator, her scaled hands moving frantically across holographic controls. Energy signature exceeds safety parameters by, this can't be right, by 8,000%. From the swirling dimensional gateway emerged the unmistakable silhouette of a human vessel, but unlike any that had been seen in the 30 years since humanity's mysterious disappearance from galactic affairs. The Supercarrier * Pathfinder * glided forward, its hull gleaming with crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light. At nearly 6 kilometers long, the vessel dwarfed the Coalition's largest dreadnoughts. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, adaptive plating reconfiguring in real time as it adjusted to local space conditions. Station Director Umorax, a veteran Valaxian diplomat, stared at the magnified visual feed with his 4 eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible," he whispered, mandibles clicking nervously. The * Pathfinder * was confirmed destroyed in the Sagittarius conflict. "We recovered debris." "Apparently not enough debris," replied his security chief, a grizzled Terran expatriate named Jackson who had remained in Coalition space after Earth's fleet vanished. "That's her, sir. But she's changed." Changed was an understatement. The Supercarrier bore strange battle scars unlike anything documented in Coalition records, crystallized impact craters that seemed to have healed rather than been repaired, geometric patterns burned into sections of the hull that shifted position subtly, and propulsion systems that emitted radiation signatures that defied conventional physics. 3-dimensional scanner results scrolled across the command center's main display, showing internal structures that made no sense to Coalition engineering experts. "We're receiving a transmission," announced the communications officer, her tentacles wavering with anxiety. "It's bypassing all encryption protocols, appearing simultaneously on every device in range. They're not hacking our systems. They're somehow broadcasting directly to our hardware." The main view screen flickered, and a woman's face appeared. Though human in appearance, subtle differences immediately registered to those familiar with the species. Her eyes reflected starlight in ways human eyes shouldn't, microcrystalline structures visible in her irises. Her skin bore nearly imperceptible geometric patterns beneath the surface, like circuitry merged with cellular structure. She wore a naval uniform of unfamiliar design, midnight blue with silver insignia that shifted position as she moved. "This is Admiral Kira Yoshida of the Earth Supercarrier * Pathfinder *, she stated, her voice carrying both warmth and unmistakable authority. "To all Coalition species within transmission range, we have returned with critical knowledge. The harvesters we encountered beyond the galactic rim have evolved beyond our initial containment efforts. They have begun their approach to Coalition space." Traffic systems crashed across Proxima Station as millions of citizens accessed the broadcast simultaneously. Merchant vessels, diplomatic shuttles, and private yachts scattered in panicked trajectories, their captains uncertain whether to flee from or approach the massive human vessel. Coalition military response ships emerged from jump points, weapons systems automatically targeting the * Pathfinder *, despite being comically outmatched in size and apparent capability. Admiral Yoshida continued, seemingly unconcerned by the defensive posture arrayed against her ship. "We come in peace, but with urgency. 30 years ago, we discovered what destroyed the precursor civilizations. We've spent every moment since preparing for their arrival." Her expression softened slightly, showing the first hint of the tremendous burden she carried. "We've lost so much to bring this warning. Please, don't make our sacrifice meaningless." As her transmission ended, the Pathfinder's hull reconfigured again, weapon ports closing and energy signatures shifting to minimal output. A gesture of peace that nonetheless did little to calm the storm of panic spreading across Coalition space. Humanity had returned, transformed by whatever lay beyond the stars, and nothing would ever be the same. The diplomatic shuttle approached the Pathfinder with calculated caution, its complement of 12 representatives from the Coalition's senior species, flanked by 4 escort vessels that seemed laughably small against the Supercarrier's vast hull. Through viewport windows, the diplomats observed how the crystalline structures embedded in the ship's exterior pulsed with gentle blue light, creating patterns that seemed almost deliberately calming. "Those aren't decorative," noted Dr. Solana Vold, the Coalition's foremost xenotechnologist. The Arcturian's multifaceted eyes reflected the patterns as she made notes on her datapad. "They're functioning as some kind of field generators, perhaps defensive, perhaps something else entirely." The Coalition vessel docked via gravity tube, a shimmering tunnel of controlled gravitational forces that allowed transfer between ships without traditional docking mechanisms. As they crossed the threshold, subtle changes registered in the diplomatic team's physiology. The Valaxian ambassador noted his chronic joint pain vanishing, while the Linthari representative felt her scales tingle with unexpected vitality. "Welcome to the Pathfinder *, greeted a human officer whose uniform bore subtle differences from historical records. "Admiral Yoshida awaits you in the cartography chamber. Please follow me." The interior corridors defied expectations, rather than the utilitarian military design documented in Coalition archives. The Supercarrier's passages featured smoothly curved walls with embedded living systems, plants, and bioengineered organisms that seemed to function as both environmental regulators and information displays. The gravity felt precisely calibrated to each visitor's homeworld, adjusting as they walked. Security Chief Draven, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts, kept his hand near his sidearm as he observed the human crew they passed. "Their movements," he whispered to his associate. "Watch how they move." Each human crew member exhibited subtle efficiency in their motions, no wasted energy, no unnecessary gestures. Their eyes constantly calculated, processing information at rates that seemed beyond standard human capabilities. Most unsettling were the barely perceptible geometric patterns visible beneath their skin when they passed under certain lighting conditions. The cartography chamber opened before them, a vast spherical room where holographic stars swirled around detailed galactic maps. Regions beyond Coalition exploration were rendered in stunning detail, including systems never documented in official records. Admiral Yoshida stood at the center, her uniform's subtle circuitry glowing faintly. 30 years ago by your time reckoning, she began without preamble. Earth's deep space detection network captured an echo from beyond the Sagittarius Arm. We dispatched scout vessels to investigate what we believed were signals from another spacefaring civilization. The Admiral gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show a massive structure, a beacon of clearly artificial design drifting at the galaxy's edge. What we found instead was this: an ancient warning system created by a civilization we've only been able to identify as the predecessors. It activated upon detecting approaching entities from intergalactic space. Her voice remained measured, but something in her eyes betrayed deeper emotion. Our entire fleet was recalled to investigate. What we discovered forced us to make an impossible choice: remain within protected space and watch as the harvesters consumed the galaxy sector by sector, or venture beyond known space to find a way to stop them. From recessed compartments in the chamber floor, sealed containers rose, their surfaces composed of materials that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. With carefully controlled gestures, Yoshida opened one to reveal its contents: metallic organisms that immediately attempted to restructure themselves despite being contained in a stasis field. "These are harvester scout forms," she explained as the Coalition representatives instinctively stepped back. "Autonomous units that seek out technological civilizations, analyze their development level, and report back to their collective. They are designed to consume technology, incorporating useful adaptations and discarding the rest, along with any species that created it. Dr. Vos approached cautiously, her scientific curiosity overcoming initial fear. Her scanners revealed something that sent a chill through her exoskeleton. "These contain element compositions from multiple worlds," she whispered, "including, these alloys match historical samples from the Centauri civilization. They've been extinct for 8,000 years. Admiral Yoshida nodded grimly. "These particular samples contain technological markers from 12 extinct civilizations. We've encountered evidence of hundreds more." She paused, allowing the full implications to register. "The Pathfinder you see now is not the same vessel that left Coalition space 3 decades ago. We've been transformed by necessity and by what we've encountered. The question now is whether the Coalition can adapt quickly enough to survive what's coming." The senior Valaxian ambassador stepped forward, his ceremonial robes suddenly seeming frivolous in this context. "You speak of transformations, Admiral. What exactly happened to humanity out there in the dark?" Yoshida's expression remained carefully neutral, but something ancient flickered behind her eyes. "That," she replied quietly, "is what I need to show you next, and why we need your trust, despite how different we may seem." The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Coalition erupted into chaos following Admiral Yoshida's initial briefing. The amphitheater-style hall, designed to accommodate representatives of 73 spacefaring species, buzzed with overlapping arguments in dozens of languages as translation systems struggled to keep pace with emotionally charged outbursts. "Order. We will maintain order," bellowed High Chancellor Mirok, the elderly Paxian's voice amplified through acoustic enhancers built into the chamber's architecture. His gray-ridged face showed the strain of mediating the 3rd consecutive hour of heated debate. "The human delegation will be permitted to finish without further interruption." Admiral Yoshida stood at the center of the chamber, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the surrounding tumult. Holographic displays surrounding her position showed technical specifications of harvester technology, alongside probability models of their advance through Coalition space. "We understand your skepticism," she continued once the noise subsided. "Humanity disappeared without explanation. Many of your governments classified us as extinct or in terminal decline. Some species here today may have celebrated that assessment." She paused, allowing the uncomfortable truth to settle. "But we're not asking for your trust based on historical goodwill. We're offering evidence and immediate practical benefits." At her gesture, a section of the chamber floor reconfigured, revealing a sealed container similar to those shown aboard the Pathfinder *. Coalition security personnel tensed, weapons ready, but instead of harvester specimens, the container opened to reveal rows of crystalline data storage devices. Complete technical specifications for medical nanites capable of curing the Proxima IV plague within hours, Yoshida stated, as images of the devastating illness that had claimed millions appeared above the first crystal. "Energy conversion systems that will triple your planetary grid efficiency without harmful emissions." A second crystal illuminated, and communication technology allowing real-time connection across distances previously limited by light speed constraints. A third glowed with schematics that made several chief scientists in attendance gasp audibly. From his position near the chamber's secure entrance, Coalition Intelligence Director Jean Tur watched with narrowed eyes. The Vexari's natural paranoia, an evolutionary trait that had served his species well, screamed warnings about the too-perfect timing of humanity's return. Yet something troubled him more than the gifts they offered. "Report," he subvocalized to his operative through an encrypted neural link. "Sir, we've completed our covert sweep of the Pathfinder's accessible decks," came the immediate response. "But we've encountered impenetrable barriers to the lower sections. Our best penetration specialists can't bypass their security, and scanning equipment malfunctions within 20 meters of the restricted zones." Janter's sensory ridges flattened against his skull. What about the primary power source? That's the concerning part, sir. We've obtained readings that suggest, well, it appears they're containing what registers as a miniaturized star in the ship's core. Power output exceeds anything in our theoretical models, let alone practical application. The intelligence director's attention snapped back to the council proceedings as a representative from the militaristic Kordathi Dominion rose to speak. These humans vanish for 3 decades, return with technology beyond our comprehension, and expect us to believe they spent this time fighting some mythical threat. The Kordathi's armored exoskeleton clicked as he gestured dismissively. More likely they've been developing weapons to ensure their dominance. I move that we impound their vessel for proper inspection before proceeding further. Admiral Yoshida's expression remained unchanged, but those nearest to her noticed the subtle shift in the crystalline patterns beneath her skin, flowing faster, more intensely. With respect, Commandant, she replied. The Pathfinder cannot be impounded by current Coalition technology any more than you could capture a solar flare with your hands. We're not making threats, we're stating technological realities. Chancellor Murrock intervened before tensions escalated further. Perhaps a demonstration of goodwill. The Proxima Plague affects 8 Coalition worlds, if your medical technology can truly address it. Yoshida nodded. We've already dispatched medical teams to the most affected colony. Treatment began 20 minutes ago. The council chamber's primary display shifted to a live feed from Proxima IV's main hospital. Patients who had been catatonic hours earlier now sat upright, cellular degeneration visibly reversing as nanite treatments spread through their systems. As representatives watched in stunned silence, emergency communications cut through all channels, overriding even the Council's secure protocols. A Coalition Border Patrol commander appeared, his uniformed figure showing signs of recent battle. Emergency alert to all Coalition forces. Multiple stations along the Cygnus Arm have gone silent. We've lost contact with outposts C-17 through C-24. Last transmission reported unknown vessels emerging from subspace with biological mechanical hybrid structures. They match no known configuration in our. The transmission dissolved into static. Admiral Yoshida closed her eyes briefly. They've arrived sooner than our models predicted, she said quietly. The harvesters have begun their assessment phase. She looked directly at Chancellor Murrock. Your border forces have approximately 16 hours before the first major population center is reached. The political debate will need to continue another time. New Horizons mining colony had never been designed for defense. The sprawling settlement spread across 3 connected asteroids housed 8 million citizens from 12 Coalition species, all devoted to extracting rare minerals from the asteroid belt. When the harvester vessels emerged from subspace folds just beyond the colony's sensor range, most residents were midway through their standard work cycle. The first warning came from an automated cargo vessel whose basic AI recognized the approaching ships as matching no known configuration. By the time the colony's emergency broadcast reached nearby Coalition space, 3 harvester scout vessels had already established orbit around the primary asteroid. Admiral Yoshida stood on the Pathfinder's command deck, watching tactical displays as the Coalition's most advanced battle group, 8 heavy cruisers and their support vessels, moved to intercept. Against her explicit advice, Coalition High Command had denied her request to lead the response. They believe this is an isolated incident, Commander Sarah Chen observed from her station, or a test of our claims. Yoshida's expression hardened. Prepared jump protocols. Full combat configuration. Admiral, Chen cautioned, Coalition Command expressly forbade our intervention. They've deployed their Lambda Squadron, their most advanced ships, and they're about to witness the complete failure of their defensive capabilities. Yoshida replied. Navigation. Plot a dimensional fold to emerge 50 kilometers from the colony's main habitation dome. Tactical. Prepare intercept squadrons with harvester-specific countermeasures. The Pathfinder's crystalline structures pulsed with increasing intensity as the massive vessel prepared for dimensional transition. On the tactical display, they watched as the Coalition battle group engaged the Harvester scouts and immediately began to falter. The sleek Coalition vessels fired their primary weapons, energy beams, and magnetically accelerated projectiles, streaking toward the organic-mechanical hybrid structures of the Harvester ships. Initial impacts seemed effective, creating ruptures in the alien hulls, until those very ruptures began to seal themselves, adapting to the specific energy signatures used against them. Their adaptive shielding is analyzing attack patterns, Chen noted grimly, exactly as we encountered in the Antares conflict. When the Harvesters returned fire, their weapons bypassed Coalition shields entirely, targeting propulsion systems with surgical precision. 2 cruisers spun out of formation, venting atmosphere and debris. "Now," ordered Yoshida. The Pathfinder emerged from its dimensional fold directly between the disabled Coalition vessels and the approaching Harvesters. The Supercarrier immediately launched smaller craft, sleek, crystalline-hulled interceptors piloted by humans wearing neural interface suits. Coalition military command channels erupted with confused orders, some captains attempting to target the unauthorized human vessels, while others focused desperately on the Harvesters. The confusion deepened when they observed the human interceptors deliberately positioning themselves to absorb enemy fire meant for Coalition ships. The Harvester weapons struck human vessels with devastating force, only for the crystalline hulls to absorb the energy, redistributing it through complex patterns before regenerating damaged sections in real time. Coalition tactical officers watched in stunned silence as their scanners registered energy signatures, indicating the human ships were using the absorbed attacks to power their own defensive systems. From the colony's administration hub, Emergency Coordinator Lisha Telmar watched the battle unfolding above through the dome's transparent sections. The Aldebarani administrator had evacuated as many colonists as possible to the central shelters, but thousands remained in the outlying processing facilities. Coalition forces are requesting immediate evacuation assistance, her communications officer reported. Their ground teams can't reach the processing sectors. Harvester drones have deployed to the surface. Before Telmar could respond, the facility's main airlock cycled open. A team of humans in combat exoskeletons entered, their armor seamlessly integrated with their bodies through the same crystalline technology visible on their ships. Leading them was Admiral Yoshida herself, now wearing battle armor that enhanced her frame beyond what should have been physically possible. "We've secured a path to your outlying sectors," Yoshida stated without preamble. "My teams can evacuate your people, but we need your environmental engineers to guide us through the colony's specific life support requirements for each species." Telmar hesitated only briefly before nodding. "The Krell workers in Section 7 require methane atmospheres. The Futurians in processing can't survive temperatures below." "We know," interrupted one of Yoshida's soldiers, interfacing directly with the colony's environmental systems through crystalline filaments extending from his gauntlet. Adaptive containment protocols engage. Above the colony, the battle reached its turning point when the Pathfinder deployed what Coalition observers would later describe as resonance weapons, beams of coherent energy that didn't destroy Harvester vessels, but instead disrupted their hive coordination. The organic components of the hybrid ships began acting independently of their mechanical systems, creating cascading failures that left them vulnerable to conventional attacks. As the last Harvester scout vessel drifted powerless, a Coalition science vessel approached cautiously. Their scans revealed what Admiral Yoshida had claimed. The Harvesters weren't merely weapons platforms, but complex technology harvesting systems designed to analyze, absorb, and repurpose advanced civilizations' achievements before moving on to the next target. In the aftermath, amid rescue operations and damage assessment, Coalition scientists examining captured Harvester technology finally understood the truth behind humanity's transformation. The interface systems, the crystalline technology, the biological adaptations, all were refinements of defensive measures developed through desperate necessity against an enemy that learned from every encounter. Humanity hadn't simply advanced during their absence. They had evolved specifically to counter the Harvester threat, becoming the perfect counter-predator to the galaxy's most efficient technological parasite. 3 days after the New Horizons battle, the Pathfinder opened its deeper sections to selected Coalition representatives. The Supercarrier had become the center of an unprecedented reverse engineering initiative, with scientific teams working around the clock to understand and implement Harvester countermeasures throughout Coalition defense systems. Dr. Solana Vos led a team of 12 xenotechnologists through corridors that seemed to shift subtly as they walked, the ship's internal architecture responding to their presence in ways that defied conventional engineering principles. Their escort, Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, moved with the fluid efficiency characteristic of the transformed humans. "This section houses our biological preservation matrices," Rodriguez explained as they approached massive doorways inscribed with geometric patterns that matched those visible beneath human skin. "What you're about to see represents the core of our survival strategy." The doors parted to reveal a vast chamber extending through multiple decks. Within, suspended temporal fields floated complete ecosystems from Earth, verdant forests with towering redwoods, vibrant coral reefs teeming with fish species, grasslands where herds of animals grazed peacefully. Each environment existed in a perfect bubble of stasis, preserved exactly as it must have appeared before humanity's departure. "These aren't merely for nostalgia," Rodriguez stated, echoing Admiral Yoshida's earlier words to the Coalition Council. "They're genetic libraries protecting Earth's biodiversity." Dr. Vos approached one of the containment fields, her scientific instruments struggling to analyze the temporal stasis technology. "These preservation fields, the power requirements must be astronomical." "They're self-sustaining now," Rodriguez replied. "The ecosystems generate their own temporal stability once initialized. Similar principles have been integrated into our defensive systems." The truth dawned on Dr. Vos as she studied the interaction between organic processes and technological systems. "You've integrated biological principles into your technology. That's how your ships can regenerate and adapt." Rodriguez nodded. "The Harvesters consume technology but struggle against systems that evolve organically. Our greatest breakthrough came when we stopped trying to build better weapons and started creating technologies that could learn and adapt like living organisms." As the scientific exchange built bridges of understanding, political tensions flared elsewhere. Coalition deep space monitoring stations detected unusual energy signatures in 4 different sectors simultaneously. High-resolution scans confirmed what Admiral Yoshida had hinted might eventually occur. 4 more human supercarriers were emerging from different regions of space, each bearing unique modifications to the same crystalline technology displayed by the Pathfinder **. In the Coalition Council's emergency session, Intelligence Director Jean Tur presented his findings with barely concealed alarm. "Each vessel appears to be crewed primarily by different Earth cultural groups," he reported, displaying holographic renderings of the approaching supercarriers. The *Tianlong* shows primarily Chinese design influences. The *Garuda* has Indian-African command structures. The *Charlemagne* bears European hallmarks, and the *Thunderbird* appears to be Pan-American in origin. Chancellor Murrock's expression darkened. "Admiral Yoshida led us to believe the Pathfinder represented humanity's primary defensive capability." "She led us to believe nothing," countered Ambassador Telmar, who had personally witnessed the human intervention at New Horizons. "She stated only what was immediately relevant to our survival." The council chamber fell silent as a communication request arrived from the Pathfinder *. Admiral Yoshida's holographic form appeared at the center of the room, her expression grave. "The arrival of our sister carriers was triggered automatically by confirmed Harvester activity within Coalition space," she explained. "Each vessel has specialized in different defensive applications based on our encounters beyond the rim. Together, they form humanity's response to extinction-level threats." The Kordathi representative rose from his seat, armor plates shifting aggressively. "This revelation only confirms our suspicions. Humanity has built a war fleet while hiding beyond our borders. Admiral Yoshida's reply came quietly but with unmistakable impact. Not a war fleet, Commandant. An arc fleet. She gestured, and the display changed to show interior sections of each supercarrier. Vast habitation zones housing tens of thousands of humans in self-contained societies. Families, schools, agricultural sections, and cultural centers existed alongside military facilities. When we left known space, Earth itself had already been attacked, Yoshida continued. The Harvester Scout we intercepted had transmitted our location. Their response was devastating. These carriers represent humanity's remnants, what we could save before our homeworld's technological infrastructure was compromised. The holographic display shifted to show orbital imagery of Earth, once green continents now covered with sprawling mechanical structures, oceans tinged with metallic compounds, the planet's surface reorganized for resource extraction. We've spent 30 years not just fighting, but ensuring humanity's survival as a species, Yoshida concluded. Each carrier preserves different aspects of our civilization, while developing specialized defensive capabilities. Together, they represent our only chance. And now, yours as well. As the Council absorbed this revelation, harvester activity increased exponentially at the galaxy's edge. Long-range sensors detected swarms of ships consuming uninhabited systems, converting raw materials into greater numbers with frightening efficiency. The coming storm would test not just humanity's specialized defenses, but the Coalition's ability to overcome centuries of political division before facing a truly unified enemy. The Harvester main fleet bypassed Coalition early warning systems using dimensional tunneling technology that Coalition scientists had previously deemed theoretically impossible. One moment, the border monitoring stations reported all clear status. The next, over 300 Harvester vessels materialized simultaneously across 3 sectors of populated space. The 5 human supercarriers had positioned themselves as the first line of defense, their captains coordinating through quantum-entangled communication systems that allowed instantaneous strategic adjustments. Coalition military observers, granted limited access to the Pathfinder's Command Center, watched with growing understanding as the true nature of the human vessels revealed itself. They're not merely warships, whispered General Thrix of the Coalition's unified defense forces. They're mobile factories, research stations, and habitats. Admiral Yoshida nodded without taking her eyes from the tactical display. Each carrier was designed for civilization continuity in addition to specialized defensive capabilities. The Pathfinder serves as our strategic coordination hub. The tactical hologram highlighted each human supercarrier as Yoshida detailed their specializations. The Chinese-led Tianlong has perfected quantum entanglement fields that can temporarily trap enemy vessels in dimensional pockets. The Indian-African Garuda deploys swarms of autonomous repair drones that protect Coalition vessels. The European Charlemagne generates gravity wells that funnel harvesters into predetermined kill zones. The Pan-American Thunderbird specializes in communications countermeasures that disrupt the Harvester's collective intelligence. As if on cue, the Harvester fleet split into 5 attack groups, each focusing on different strategic targets. The human carriers responded with extraordinary coordination, positioning themselves to maximize their specialized capabilities. The Tianlong engaged the largest Harvester concentration, its hull reconfiguring to reveal massive emitter arrays. Coruscating blue-white energy shot forth, creating shimmering fields that trap dozens of Harvester vessels in isolated dimensional bubbles. Captain Lin Wei's voice came through the command channel, her tone measured despite the strain evident in her expression. Quantum entanglement fields holding at 87% efficiency. We can maintain containment for 22 minutes before power cycling is required. Near a populous Coalition world, the Garuda deployed its unique defense system. Thousands of crystalline drones no larger than a human hand, swarming around coalition vessels in protective formations. When harvester energy weapons struck, the drones intercepted and redistributed the attacks, their crystalline structures glowing with absorbed power. Drone swarms functioning within optimal parameters, reported Captain Amara Okafor, the Garuda's commander. Coalition ships adjust formation pattern to configuration Delta 7 to maximize coverage. The battle became a devastating light show visible from planetary surfaces across 3 sectors. Coalition vessels learned to integrate with human tactics, creating combination attacks no single species could achieve. Harvester adaptations that countered one approach were immediately met with an entirely different strategy from another carrier. Against expectations, the Charlemagne struggled to maintain its gravity well projectors when confronted by a harvester capital ship that had adapted specifically to gravitational manipulation. The European carrier took critical damage protecting the Vexari homeworld Naraxa, its primary power distribution systems failing catastrophically. Multiple hull breaches on decks 17 through 34, reported the Charlemagne's executive officer, her voice steady despite the chaos visible behind her. Captain Broussard is initiating Protocol Omega. Admiral Yoshida's expression tightened. Confirmed, Charlemagne Coalition forces clear a 300-kilometer radius immediately. The dying supercarrier began an emergency evacuation procedure, jettisoning massive habitat sections that contained 10,000 human civilians. As coalition rescue vessels scrambled to retrieve the escape pods and habitat modules, Captain Marcel Broussard made his final transmission. For Earth, for humanity, for all sentient life. The Charlemagne converted its remaining mass into a dimensional collapse weapon, sacrificing itself to seal the spatial tunnel through which harvester reinforcements had been arriving. The resulting implosion created a localized spatial anomaly that dragged the nearest harvester capital ship into non-space, removing both threats simultaneously. In the aftermath of this sacrifice, a critical discovery emerged. Science officer Ilara Jensen of the Thunderbird identified a pattern in harvester adaptation rates when comparing data across all engagement zones. Their collective intelligence operates on quantum-level communication, she reported. But it's not instantaneous between widely separated units. There's a propagation delay we can exploit if we coordinate our attacks precisely. This insight transformed the battle strategy. Human and coalition forces executed synchronized strikes across multiple sectors, preventing the Harvester Collective from adapting quickly enough to counter all approaches simultaneously. The Harvester formations began to falter as their adaptive advantages diminished. When the primary engagement ended 16 hours later, the coalition had survived its first major Harvester assault. The cost had been severe: 1 human carrier destroyed, thousands of lives lost on both sides, and significant damage to coalition infrastructure. But they had achieved what Admiral Yoshida had claimed possible. They had defeated a Harvester attack force previously considered unstoppable. As rescue operations commenced across the affected sectors, coalition military analysts reviewed combat footage with newfound respect. Humanity had transformed itself into something new, not through conquest or dominance, but through desperate adaptation for survival. Their technologies, their biology, even their social structures had evolved specifically to counter an enemy that learned from every encounter. The Harvesters had found in humanity something they had never encountered before, a species that could adapt faster than they could. The immediate aftermath of the battle felt like both a victory and a somber reminder. The human ships were battered, but not broken, and the coalition forces had learned just how dangerous the Harvesters could be when underestimated. Across the shattered remains of the Charlemagne, the remaining carriers began their slow retreat, their crews tending to their wounds and the survivors of the catastrophic losses. Admiral Yoshida stood silently in the Pathfinder's command center, her eyes fixed on the ever-growing number of rescue ships and the coordinates of the remaining Harvester vessels, scattered but not yet entirely vanquished. The human fleet had paid a high price, but it had also proven its resilience. The harvesters, on the other hand, had failed to anticipate this one thing: humanity's capacity for innovation under extreme duress. "We've seen their weaknesses," Jensen said, her voice resolute as she approached Yoshida. "The time delay in their communications is real. They rely on synchronized decision-making to adapt, but they can't manage that over the vast distances between sectors. We can push them harder now, while they're divided." Yoshida nodded, turning toward the tactical hologram. The harvester fleet had been broken into smaller fragments by their earlier defeat, but they weren't retreating in the traditional sense. Instead, they seemed to be reorienting and recalibrating, preparing for the next phase of the conflict. "I don't think they'll give up that easily," Yoshida said, her eyes narrowing. "They'll adapt, just as we did." "That's exactly what we need to keep exploiting," Jensen replied. "They're trying to figure out what we just did, but they can't move fast enough to reconfigure every sector at once." At that moment, a sudden transmission from the Garuda flickered onto the screen, its captain's voice carrying both wariness and resolve. "Admiral, we've just received intel from a deep space probe. We've detected a larger harvester fleet gathering beyond the edge of the Zeta-9 system. They're preparing to make a coordinated strike on Coalition homeworlds." Yoshida's expression darkened, but there was no hesitation in her response. "Prepare a counteroffensive. We can't let them consolidate. If they regroup, we lose the advantage. Tell all fleets, we go after them now." A quiet tension filled the command center as the human and coalition fleets readied themselves for the next strike. For the first time, the Harvester Collective faced a species that understood how to fight back in a way they hadn't anticipated. The future of the war, and perhaps the future of humanity itself, hung in the balance. Admiral Yoshida looked to Jensen, her voice low but full of determination. "The Harvesters thought they could consume us, but they've underestimated one thing. Humanity doesn't just survive. We evolve." With that, the fleets powered up, and the human forces, in their unity, prepared to face down the next chapter of the war. This time, they weren't just defending their borders, they were taking the fight to the Harvesters. And this time, they were bringing the fight on their terms. The Harvesters had learned too late that humanity's capacity to adapt was their greatest weapon, and it was only just beginning to reach its full potential. The human and coalition fleets rallied in the shadow of the Zeta-9 system, the vast expanse of space between them and the incoming harvester forces filled with anticipation. There was no time to regroup fully. The harvester fleet, though scattered, had grown into a significant force once again, and if they were allowed to consolidate, their sheer numbers and adaptability would overwhelm the fragile alliances of the coalition. Humanity's forces had no choice but to push forward, capitalizing on the advantages they had gained. In the command center of the Pathfinder, the room hummed with the intensity of a final preparation. Officers worked at their stations, calibrating energy outputs, adjusting fleet formations, and monitoring the harvester fleet's movements across the outer rim. But beneath the veneer of activity, there was a deeper understanding. The real challenge was not simply defeating the harvester fleet, it was preserving the fragile momentum humanity had created. Admiral Yoshida paced the command center, her thoughts focused on the battle to come. The Thunderbird's comms specialist, Lieutenant Rodas, spoke up as the holographic map of the sector updated. "Admiral, we've confirmed they're deploying new vessels, larger and more durable than anything we've seen so far. Their adaptive processes are accelerating." Yoshida took a steady breath. "As expected," she muttered. "They're learning. But so are we." Science Officer Ilara Jensen stepped forward, holding a data pad that flashed with new analysis. "We've had another breakthrough, Admiral. We've isolated a key weakness in their newer models. They rely heavily on a form of nanotechnology for self-repair. But in order to activate it, they need specific conditions, a resonance frequency we can exploit." Jensen's fingers danced over the data pad as she updated the hologram with a new array of frequencies. "We can target their repair systems directly. A focused burst of energy could disrupt the nanobots' function long enough to disable their repair mechanisms. It'll give us a window of opportunity to target their main systems. Yoshida studied the information closely, nodding as she considered the ramifications. Disrupting their self-repair systems could cripple their entire fleet. If we can force them into a position where they have to choose between self-repair and maintaining combat capabilities, we strike while they're vulnerable. Jensen finished, her eyes bright with a sharp sense of purpose. Admiral Yoshida's gaze hardened with resolve. It's time we put that theory into practice. Hours later, the battle unfolded with terrifying precision. The human and coalition fleets, synchronized as never before, struck with calculated ferocity. The Harvester fleet responded with relentless aggression, but the unexpected tactics of the humans kept them off balance. The Tanlong was the spearhead of the assault, its quantum entanglement fields trapping Harvester ships in dimensional pockets long enough for the Thunderbird to launch an electromagnetic pulse that disrupted their ability to adapt in real time. Meanwhile, the Garuda swarmed the Harvester lines with drones, the crystalline protectors deflecting laser fire while also feeding intelligence to the human commanders, allowing them to adjust in real time. But the real surprise came from the Charlemagne's last gift, a series of portable gravity wells, constructed from the remnants of the destroyed ship. These deployed mini-wells generated enough gravitational distortion to isolate key Harvester units, making them easy targets. Yet, despite their best efforts, the Harvesters quickly adapted, deploying new countermeasures almost as soon as the human fleets adapted to their last move. It was a never-ending cycle of evolution and counter-evolution. But as the hours passed, it became clear that the Harvesters had underestimated one thing: the speed and unpredictability of human innovation. On the front lines, a human cruiser dropped out of warp, its hull glowing with reconfigured energy shields that emitted powerful pulses across the battlefield. The signal was clear. Humanity was not just reacting to the Harvesters. They were leading the charge.